Yo, what's up guys? Valiant Style here again, here to bring you a what if slash fan fiction for Boku no Hero Academia, or My Hero Academia, whichever way you prefer to say it. So, in this what if, we're going to be tackling a little bit of an interesting thing in my personal opinion, because of the way the series goes, it seems like all of Deku's freshman year, I guess you could first year, depending on which way you want to refer to it, Deku is trying to find himself in order to live up to the expectations of those placed on him. So everybody knows that, of course. It's basically said by him a lot of the time. It's the theme of the story so far. But what if his second year was more so about finding how to fit those expectations into himself? We've started to see him break into this a little bit by him starting to figure out shoot style in the manga, coming up with more stuff to aid him in fighting villains, and it seems like he slowly is becoming more comfortable in, I'm not trying to fit into the mold that is All Might, I'm trying to become the best successor that is me, Deku. But we haven't really reached a point where Deku is literally like that. Like, how do I make the dream of being the #1 hero me, rather than me trying to fit into the mold that is All Might? So, in that, I think it'd actually be interesting into bringing in exchange students, right? Exchange students from America. I know the movie just came out. I haven't seen a lot of it, so I can't... What am I saying? I haven't even seen the movie yet. Sorry, I don't really have the money, and I don't know where to find it online that I honestly trust to be able to look into that won't give me a virus or anything like that. But anyways, I digress as far as that is. So the beginning of the second year would actually start off with, of course, Aizawa Sensei sitting here exclaiming, because I'm also assuming that this is probably a good couple of arcs ahead of where the current manga is. So we're entering in the second year of Deku's, and Aizawa Sensei comes in. Everybody's surprised. We all thought we'd get a different homeroom teacher. Aizawa Sensei goes, "No, your homeroom teacher will now be staying with you throughout all 3 years as mandated by the principal, because of course events and everything." And it's like, because of the fact we know of what's been going on with UA and everything, we want to make sure that the students have as much regularity as possible to make them comfortable. But with that said, we will be bringing in some exchange students for the first time too. It was something that was kept being pushed by even with everything, so we will be accepting 4 students from the USA who won the exchange program to be able to come to UA, because it was a small contest they could put up for morale, but because of an event that happened with a League of Villains or some other group of villains that originally they wanted to cancel it, but just like the festival for sports festival, arc in the manga, which just recently passed. If you haven't read that, please go read that. I won't be spoiling anything, just know it is an arc that happened. But anyways, so of course they wouldn't cancel it either in bringing these students over. And I think it'd be interesting to see a little bit more of, like, you know, them talking about like the world as a whole. Like, yeah, the top 10 heroes are the top 10 heroes of here in Japan, but there's a different top 10 in the United States, Europe, almost anywhere, right? To where there's like an overall world #1 ranking, but that's usually just a strong popularity poll. So, with that being said, the USA actually has very strict hero programs in their country, because they want to try and catch up and compete with that as well, to be able to have their own really good heroes. Because All Might to them was like a hero that they really wanted to represent the USA, and for the most part he does, but just based off of representation as a whole, I know All Might would probably say I am for everyone and everything like that, but it's clear as day that he is from Japan, he's a representative of Japan, but a lot of his hero persona and quirks in his personality in order to be brash or what's the phrase I'm looking for? Just very out there, just very in your face. Is to be very American-like. Now, as an American, yeah, that would probably be how a lot of American heroes would be. So with that, the #1 world consensus would be All Might being the #1 hero. And you would actually get a little bit more in depth about that, like how each country thinks about heroism, and actually get to learn a little bit about it. And it's with these 4 students that come in that are the same year as Deku and them, that are essentially like Lemillion and the Big 3. So when they walk in, it's a group of 4 characters, as I just said. One, a young man with gravity powers himself. One with the ability to be able to make anything lighter or heavier. Similar to Uraraka's powers, but also different at the same time, because he can also focus it into his self and be able to make his punches harder. As well as something else that we'll get into, he uses wooden swords. There is a nice little secret that I'll save for part 2 as far as that is. But if you know the series, it might be interesting for you to know if somebody else uses swords. That'd be kind of obvious, but I would like to see how y'all think that ties into this what if story. Another guy in the group that, for safety's sake, might as well say he's Bison from Street Fighter. Just without the I want to take over the world attitude. He's like, he has the powers of Bison, but he acts like Killer Bee from Naruto. That'd actually think on it, I still think that'd be hilarious. Then you have 2 girls. One is a girl with the powers of a bat. So she'd be kind of dressed up like, kind of goth-like. Not goth Lolita though. Though that'd actually be kind of, that would be kind of cool if it could be like goth Lolita hipster. Would be interesting if somebody would be able to draw that. I'm not even sure how that would work or look, but that would be awesome. And then the other girl is essentially a girl that's similar to Todoroki in that she can use lightning and water. And it's these 4 that basically explain a little bit of, you know, talking about America from where they're coming from. Because also within the contest, they actually had the right to talk to the class about doing something that they do in America for a week. So what they decided to do is basically we do what was called every while we do what's called a mixed class for our hero course, and that is learning as well as combat training. And what they decided to do is put up vocabulary where it's like anti-hero, anti-villain, hero, villain, evil, psychopath, words like that, and basically ask them to define it and then think of a villain that you know of that can fit these words and their definitions, and actually challenge them a little bit, because there isn't a story yet, at least in the My Hero world, where you see them trying to reach out and save the villains. Now let me explain this a little bit. I know in like Marvel and DC there's not really like, you know, trying to save a villain. There's only petty villains like, you know, purse snatchers and things like that. But in both anime and sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes in comics, we do have the heroes trying to reach out to the villains and save them from themselves. Actually, I might need to scratch that, because Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, is the main one that's usually trying to reach out to a lot of his villains, like, you don't have to do this, you can change and be better. And you don't really have that in My Hero, but I think if you had somebody present that to the class, it'd be something that changes the mindset a little bit. Because you also have to look into it and say, well, where does the line get drawn? And that'd be actually a nice little addition to the mindset of the class. Especially when you had a line from Suyu, who during the Bakugo rescue arc, pretty much told the class, hey, if you break the rules and trying to go save Bakugo, you're no better than villains. And it's basically, in doing this lesson for the vocabulary, it's them challenging that very logic. Like, why are we no better than the villains by breaking a rule that saves somebody? Or why are we considered bad for trying to help somebody that's robbing a bank? Why are they robbing a bank? Maybe their family situation's bad. What do you know of that about their situation that stops them? Of course, you know, there is that line where, yeah, this is petty robbery, this is just this is just that, but then you start crossing into murder, where no, that's a no-no, of course. And it'd be really interesting to see how the class interacts with it. From Suyu, because of that logic that I previously mentioned, Deku, who's always analyzing everything, and then seeing how everybody else reacts to it as a whole too. Because you have Lita, who is another person of very conventional logic as well as following the rules, and then you have, oh god, I don't want to say her name because I feel like I'm not going to say it right, and I know in the comments before in some other videos people have always sit here and talk to me about how I don't pronounce certain names right, but Yaoyazori? I'm just going to call her Yao Yao, the girl that essentially looks like Kefla. I'm going to put a picture here for her. But for now on, every time I refer to her, I'm just calling her Yao Yao. Anyways, so from here you have a bit of that, as well as him, each of them when their introductions, just explaining a little bit of themselves. And the guy with the gravity powers that I aforementioned is essentially the leader of their little small group, and he'll explain that in America there's a lot more team heroes than there are individuals. Sure, people do work on individual things, but it's easier to get things done as well as keep peace within their society due to them having a higher rate of villainy as well as crime within America. Because of how strict the hero courses are, it makes people feel a little bit down about themselves and lash out against society for it. So sometimes they've actually had to fight against some of their classmates that just said screw school and became the villain. And it's in this that you would actually hear someone come into the class that is an All Might sympathizer, but at the same time is not, in the sense of Lemillion and Deku and even Bakugo, in that while he appreciates how dedicated All Might has been to the Hero Society in Japan and Hero Society as a whole, but he himself made society too dependent upon him as a solar pillar, because once he's gone, the whole society went into chaos. No one can outright fully trust the number 2, regardless of where you go, because now it feels as if that safety net is gone, when it shouldn't be that way. So being a singular pillar, a symbol of peace by yourself, is not something he wants to be a part of nor wants to endorse. But in doing this, he brings up the first thought too that happens in comics too, in creating a system in which heroes back each other up, and essentially mentioning it similar to Interpol, since police work still is active in the My Hero world. You would essentially just have Interpol for heroes. So yeah, it'd be basically My Hero Academia's Justice League or Avengers 2, whichever way you want to look at it. But bringing this thought process to them gives them again a whole nother perspective to look from, something else to basically sink their teeth into. But it's also kind of the way it was presented that kind of, for the first time, makes Deku upset, and of course pisses off Bakugo. And I think we'll leave her right there for now, where everybody is just hearing all this information. Even the combat thing I'll mention in the next part for now, but just sitting there thinking about how everybody would react to these small, minute things that could easily happen in 1 or 2 chapters. And it's just mind-boggling that it hasn't happened yet. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? If we can get 5 likes on this, I'll definitely make a part 2. If not, you'll probably get part 4 and part 5 of What If All the Saiyans Turn Good first. But otherwise, guys, until next time, I'll see you.